A major scandal, a tragic situation, an unfortunate burden. However you want to classify it, it looks like Adam Peters was one step ahead of the game. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we are here to discuss one of the more mysterious and intriguing stories of the young 2025 NFL season. Specifically, we are going to be taking a look back at the Commanders' first-round selection of Josh Conerly Jr. It was met with a lot of criticism after a slow start to his NFL career, but there's a story that's going on right now in Kansas City that might be proving that Adam Peters did ultimately make the correct decision. Guys, we're going to jump into that in just a moment, but before we do, make sure you hit the like button. We have been coming out with multiple daily uploads recently. We've had a couple of live streams back-to-back. The turnout has been awesome. I just want to say I really appreciate you guys being there for the journey. So if you do like the content, make sure you hit the like button. It's the easiest way to support me. If you're new around here, press that subscribe button as well. Before I get into the story, I do want to make this very clear. We don't know all of the details. However, it is a potentially serious situation. So I'm going to not necessarily tread lightly, but tread respectfully as I can, while being brutally honest with what is going on and what this means for the Commanders. So I want to give a shout out to Bobby Burak of Outkick for aggregating this timeline. Today on this show, we're talking about Josh Simmons, who was the first round left tackle selection of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they would have been picking 31st. I feel like they made a trade. Did they swap picks with the Eagles? They might have picked at 30, 31, 32, but it was in the 30s. And obviously the Commanders picked before that at 29. So they took Conerly. Simmons was still on the board. Simmons was described as the most natural pass blocker in the draft, arguably, him and Kelvin Banks. He had a phenomenal year at Ohio State, ended up tearing his ACL, so he wasn't there to finish the season, but he looked like a truly outstanding player. That's the Josh Simmons that we're talking about, and that's the Josh Simmons that we are using to move over into this timeline. So again, credit to Bobby Burak for this. So our story picks up a couple of hours before kickoff in the Chiefs game against the Jaguars a couple of weeks ago. Just 2 hours before the game was set to get underway, Simmons popped up on the pregame injury report with an illness. He ended up playing in that game. Last weekend, according to Underdog Sports, Mahomes showed up at Arrowhead Stadium to get ready for a contest with the Lions on Sunday Night Football, only to notice that his starting left tackle wasn't in the building. Several reports then came out that day that numerous Chief coaches did not know where Simmons was. Earlier that day, and this could be unrelated, but earlier that day, Simmons had deleted his Instagram. The Chiefs then announced before kickoff that Simmons would miss the game against the Lions for what they called personal reasons. SiriusXM reported that he actually missed the game due to family reasons, although several Kansas City reporters have since disputed that. Andy Reid was up at the podium. He said that he doesn't know when Simmons will return and that the situation is in the hands of the GM, Brett Veach. Patrick Mahomes also did not offer any comment on it, but he said that he is praying for Simmons. Shortly thereafter, there's a report from Chiefs writer for ESPN, Nate Taylor, who says, quote, Simmons is in California. He left at a time on Sunday that is extremely unusual. I'm not sure when he's coming back, and as of now, the team doesn't know when he's coming back either. There were some pre-draft evaluations that were written about Simmons. This one from Albert Breer, an NFL reporter for NBCS Boston. He said, quote, there's a character issue with him where he's another one of these guys. He's from a rough background, so there's a life skills question with him. Like, you're going to have to kind of hold his hand a little bit. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler also said certain things are important to him. Pass blocking, game day, but others are not, such as practices and run blocking. So there's an awful lot to digest from this story. And before we move forward, let's just take a step back. So at some point over the last couple of weeks, very mysterious things started happening with Josh Simmons. He has an illness, but nobody seems to know what it is. That it's a family problem, but that's later disputed. He flies out of town to California, which is obviously not close to Missouri, at a time that's unusual for players to do. There is no indication of when he'll be returning, and the fact the situation is now in the hands of the general manager, does that mean that Simmons could potentially be moved off of the active roster? What other moves is there for a GM to make? Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but if we're transitioning from this as a coaching matter to this as a GM manager, now we're involving the infrastructure. We're involving the hierarchy. It's not just staying within the team. I know the GM runs the team, but it's not within the walls of the locker room. No, this is becoming a more structural, institutional problem. Maybe not problem, but situation. So I bring up all of this to say that first and foremost, nobody knows what's going on with Josh Simmons. And it is a potentially serious situation. So I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to say that this is a cause of his mental health. I'm not going to say that he has a family problem. I'm not going to say that he's in legal troubles. When we get those updates, if they are relevant to the Commanders, I'll make sure that I go ahead and give you a video on that. But I'm not here to say what is going on. There is just something that is going on. And so when I loop this back to all the criticism that Adam Peters received for passing on Simmons, especially with how well Simmons started the year, is it possible that Adam Peters had an inkling? He had sniffed something out to say, well, I know this team prioritizes brotherhood, togetherness. They don't really like disruptions. And did he get a whiff of something? This could prove to be totally unrelated. Could be his grandmother passed away. Could be something totally unrelated. But it could be related. That's what I want to say. It could be related. Adam Peters, whether you like how he handled the McLaurin contract situation or not, however you feel about him, let's not pretend that he's not a man who does his due diligence. He had 2 UDFAs make the starting 53-man roster each of the last 2 seasons. Colson Yankoff last year, Ale Cajo this year, UDFA rookies. You also got Bill Krosky-Merritt in the 7th round, a player who basically didn't have a senior season, who before that had only played at Alabama State and New Mexico. And now Bill looks like one of the most promising young running backs in the entire NFL. Got him in the 7th round. So we know Adam Peters is going to do his due diligence. And for everyone who is saying he made a mistake by passing on Simmons, perhaps he was just ahead of the game. Let's take a look at some of the numbers for Simmons and Conerly this season. Simmons has allowed 12 pressures, 1 sack. Conerly has allowed 19 pressures and 4 sacks. However, if you are to look at their last 3 games, because we know Conerly got the baptism by fire. He had the Giants and their outstanding offensive line. He then had He then had the Packers with Michael Parsons, and then he had Max Crosby. It was a rough start to his NFL career. Since then, he's gone Falcons, Chargers, Bears. How did he hold up in those games? 8 pressures, 0 sacks. Last year, he had the 2nd lowest pressure rate allowed by rookie offensive linemen. Now, if you compare that to the Chiefs, who over their last 3 games, they have faced the Ravens, who have a big name, but do not have a good defense this year, the Jaguars, and the Lions. In those games, Simmons gave up 8 pressures and 1 sack. So both rookies gave up 8 pressures. One gave up 1 sack. That being Simmons. Conerly had a blank slate. This season, Bill Krosky-Merritt, when running in Conerly's direction, he is averaging 7.7 yards per carry through the right B gap, 7.3 yards per carry through the right C gap. Those being right inside and right outside of Conerly. If you look at the Chiefs, Pacheco is averaging 2 and 5 yards per carry through the left B and C gap. Kareem Hunt is averaging 4.2 and 3.9 through the left B and C gap. So the Commanders' running game has been more productive targeting Conerly's side than the Chiefs targeting Simmons' side. And yes, the Commanders are a more run-focused team than the Chiefs are. However, if we are to look back at some of the pre-draft stuff, they said that practice and run blocking, the less glamorous tasks of a football player, do not particularly appeal to Simmons. Don't hate me, hate the reports, hate the data. This is not me spreading the narrative. This is me reading reports from legitimate sourced NFL insiders. Now, Conerly hasn't been perfect, but he wasn't drafted to be perfect on day one. He was a player who, at 21 years old, had only started for 2 years at Oregon. He was someone who had to grow into his body. I know that's weird to say about a 6'5", 315-pound man, but play strength was a concern for him. You knew he was getting a really, really difficult start at the beginning of the season. So as things progressed, as he got more reps under his belt, could you start to see the improvement? We're only 3 games removed from that first 3-game stretch, but he has been much better, specifically with his pass blocking. There are tough tests to come. And it's funny that we're having this conversation about the Chiefs because, as we know, after the Commanders face the Cowboys on the road on Sunday, they then have the Chiefs in Arrowhead on Monday Night Football. Are we going to see Simmons and Conerly match up? Is it just going to be Conerly? Are we going to have more news about what's actually going on with Simmons at that point? I don't know. But I am interested to track what is happening with Conerly as he continues to develop in the NFL. Getting this back on Adam Peters, I want to say this. Once again, none of us are ever inside the walls of the front office. When the Terry McLaurin contract saga was going on, we didn't know what Adam Peters was offering. We didn't know what Terry was demanding. We got some reports after the fact, but at the time we didn't know. When AP and Lance Newmark and the coaches are doing their pre-draft evaluations, again, this Josh Simmons stuff could prove to be totally unrelated. It could prove to be related. So let's just keep in mind, when we start to question the leadership, when we start to question people who have more information than we do, who are privy to more things than we are, maybe they're saying the things they're saying. Maybe they're doing the things they're doing because they have a reason to. I'm not going to blindly defend Adam Peters. I'm not going to blindly stick up for him, but I will stick up for him where it's appropriate. And situations like these maybe make me think that I'm glad I have a general manager who leaves no stone unturned. Guys, I'm going to head out of here. A little bit of a shorter video. Please go to the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are on this whole situation. It is potentially serious. We have no clue what's going on. And if it is serious, Josh Simmons and his family have my prayers. If it is related to this, we'll come back and we'll have another conversation about Adam Peters. If it's totally unrelated, then we can forget this video ever happened. But I am interested to hear your thoughts because at the very least, it is a mysterious story, one that there seems to be a general lack of information available. So I'll be reading and responding to all the comments as many as I can. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Might bounce back with another upload or a live stream later today. We'll have to see. But I'm head on out of here. As I always say, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.